What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the PowerUp podcast with your host Nathan Shields, aka Siren. Remember to check us out at www.powerupfighters.com and to subscribe at the site via RSS and to this podcast via iTunes. Now, today my guest is Tarkan X, and we talk a little bit about his history in the fighting game scene and also about going to tournaments, how you can prepare for tournaments. Dealing with pressure when you're at tournaments, the Midwest scene in general, why you don't need an arcade to power up, level up your game, but why it's a very useful tool that you should definitely encourage and take advantage of when it's available. And how to increase your skill level in general. You know, checking your ego at the door when you go to one of these tournaments and really trying to learn from your mistakes and even from the things you do correctly, trying to learn from the complete experience and how to make yourself a better player. I'll go ahead and let Tarkan X take it from here.
My name is Tahir. My handle, I'm sure you can, is Tarkan X. I'm 22 years old. I've been playing competitively since late 2001, so that's almost 8 years now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get better, you know, still traveling to tournaments. Sometimes I ask myself why I still play, but I honestly have no idea why. But for some reason just gravitates to me.
Is it just the love of the games?
Yeah, that's probably it. There are some points where, you know, I don't play for a while, but then I get back into it. So I guess it's probably just the level of the game.
Do you always keep the same skill level, or do you usually go down a couple notches that you have to get back?
I always get better.
Okay.
Although sometimes it doesn't feel like it, probably because the competition gets better as well.
Take a little hiatus and everybody learns some new tricks, huh?
Yeah. Like, for example, Third Strike. I don't consider myself good in that game. But I know I can give anyone like a run for their money, even though I'll probably lose.
You'll take them at least to the third round, huh?
Yeah, and I don't even practice that game anymore. But for some reason, I've gotten better. Probably because I play people here in the Minnesota scene who are better than me, and that's the only time I play Third Strike in casuals or a tournament. So my game gets better, even though I don't have to practice the game.
So how'd you get your start in fighting games? A lot of people say Super Turbo was their first game. Was that the same for you?
Actually, Street Fighter 2 was the first game. I'm sure it was for everyone. Back in the arcade in the laundromat, because I used to live in California as a kid. And then the Super Nintendo. But the first time I was serious, there was this site called Street Fighter Online. It was called X-Men vs. Street Fighter Online back then. It was I think it used Shockwave to make the game happen. And the only character that was chosen was Ryu, so you could only pick Ryu at the time. And also, it played nothing like the real X-Men vs. Street Fighter. It was very laggy. You had to actually use lag, not in the way that the game would slow down to a crawl, but you know, Ryu would keep teleporting a lot because, you know, the packets from the one player and the other player wouldn't mix up.
Oh, okay.
They wouldn't, you know, join together as they should be. So Ryu would teleport from one screen to another. So when you think you hit him with a super, he's right behind you, and he got you with a super. So you have to deal with that.
I gotcha. So that was your first game that you played competitively, that version of X-Men vs. Street Fighter?
Yeah, and I got so good that, you know, I became the best. I was winning the big tournaments. Then the game got it introduced this mode called 4 players, so you could have 4 people battling instead of 2, and it got so laggy that I quit.
Okay. Now, what was the scene like? Because this was like an early online game, apparently. So, what was were you playing people locally only, or was it even
No,
like national?
it was around the world. So
Hmm.
you get people from Thailand, Pakistan, Mexico, Canada, Europe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It was, when I look back on it, it was, even though the game is really broken, it's messed up, it was fun, and it got my start.
Cool. So then after that, excuse me, what were some of your favorite games?
After that, I started to pick up Alpha 3,
Hmm.
like just after playing it, back in 2001 or 2002. I picked up Third Strike before, everyone started to get on it. Picked up Marvel, and I was playing those games.
Nice, nice. What do you think is your general play style?
Usually, I like to turtle and zone players. I like to create enough space for me so I can punish their moves, basically chip them, try to annoy them into doing something bad.
Gotcha.
That's how I like to play. Although now I've been trying to be more offensive, because that's one of the problems with me, is that I don't attack a lot, and also because if you face someone that can deal with your play style, then they're gonna hit you more than you hit them.
Right.
And because time is a factor, you're going to have to go rushing towards them. And since my offensive game, my rushdown game isn't that great, they can easily just punish it.
Gotcha.
So that's something that I want to improve.
Very cool. So let's one more part of the introduction before we will move on to some of your specific stuff. Do you have any favorite characters, and why do you like them?
Honestly, I like Ryu a lot because there's a balance with them, and he's a character that's easy to pick up, but I think, in my opinion, he's one of the hardest characters to master. Like, there's a lot of casual players or scrubs that choose Ryu, especially online, right? But how many top players do you see picking Ryu? Not many, because he's so hard to master. It's not something that takes a few days. Like, some characters, they're direct. Like Zangief, just get in. That's your mission. Just get in.
Right.
Ryu, he's got so many tools, and it's so hard to use those tools at the highest level.
It's not he's balanced in that the other characters are easier to play because they have this glaring either like deficiency or strength that players will play to. Ryu, he's kind of got a little bit of everything, so he's harder to use a good beginner character because you can kind of choose what you want your focus to be if you were to move on to another more like imbalanced character. But Ryu, I guess he has a draw to you because all of these different things, they're harder to get the most out of. He's hard to get full potential because he doesn't have any of those obvious strengths.
Exactly. And you know what the crappy part about it is? I can't even use Ryu.
Ah, what's hard about using Ryu for you?
He's too hard for me. I can't zone with him as well.
Okay.
So characters that like Super Turbo is my favorite game, and I like to use Guile and Sagat in that game.
Okay.
Some DJ, and I like and Vega as well.
That's very odd. You love Ryu, but you just can't use him. It's interesting.
Nope. I mean, there's some characters that you just can't use. Like, I like Magneto a lot in Marvel, but I can't use that character.
Yeah, me too. Wow. He's awesome rushdown, but man, I just can't play him for some reason. Maybe with practice, who knows?
Yep.
All right, then let's move on to one of your first talking points, if you like. Do you have a list of your own you'd like to go by?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, please.
First of all, I really wanted to go to Evolution this year. I've been planning it like last year, and I just had to help pay some bills, and I just couldn't go.
Yeah, stuff happens.
I want to talk about how Midwest did at Evo.
Okay, how did you
And
feel
I
about the
think,
live stream? Just to not to
live
interrupt.
stream,
Yeah, I
it's
mean, since you couldn't
compared
go.
to what we've had like back then, where the only updates you could get was through IRC
Mm-hmm.
or forum posts.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. It's absolutely great.
Not quite like
The,
being there, but it kept you
no,
in the
not
loop.
being there is always going to be the best.
Of course.
But the frame rate was pretty bad though.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you'd have skipping, so sometimes it would stop, so you'd have to refresh it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great, and it's only going to get better.
Exactly. Well, please continue then.
Okay. Marvel, I was surprised that Matt Blueface. He's always been really good. He's an old school player,
Okay.
and he beat Chunkster too. So that's great, because Midwest is really underrated. Although sometimes it's rightfully so, because there's I can only think of 3 scenes in the Midwest that really play Marvel.
Which would those be?
Anymore. Minnesota, here we've got some pretty good Marvel players. Although right now we're not really playing it much anymore. Chicago and I think Detroit.
Yeah, I think isn't that where VDO and Flap are? Detroit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
Third Strike. Oh, go ahead.
What was the player's name? I'm not familiar. That was at Evo for Marvel.
Mad Blueface.
Mad Blueface.
Yeah, he's a Chicago player.
Okay, cool.
And in Third Strike, I don't think there was anyone in the top 8, but that's to be said. There's in the Midwest, it's kind of hard, for that game. I mean,
why do you think that is?
Players. Well, other players, they've got a better scene to play in. Like originally, Third Strike, you couldn't really play it online till way later after it was released. So the best way you could get better was on arcade, and places like Northern California, Southern California, New York. Those are the teams that pretty much place top 8. I think Texas as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for Midwest, it's really hard to get really good at that game. Well, now it's easier since you can play it online, but still it's can't think of the word to say, but it's for that game. I don't know. I think it's run its course.
Which is a shame. I picked it up recently once I started playing competitively, and I really like it. I think it's a deep game. It's fun to play. I think it's a little bit more fun right now. Of course, it is a very polished game, but I find it more fun than this first iteration of Street Fighter 4, and I'm kind of sad to see Third Strike sort of dying off.
Well, I think it'll be at locals still. I don't think it'll drop off at local tournaments or even majors, but I don't think Evo's going to have it
Probably not.
next year. Yeah. So I think people will still be able to get better at that game, and maybe even challenge Southern California or Northern California to that game. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Actually.
Well, I guess that kind of goes into your next point, at least the one that I have written down, which is focus shifting to new games.
Yeah. Honestly, this is a great time for fighting games. There's so many new games coming out, and all of them look either really good or look to be really popular. You have Blaze Blue, came out a month ago. King of Fighters 12, which is supposed to come out in a month. Soul Calibur 4 already came out. Street Fighter 4, Tekken 6, and TVC for the American version. Although we're not sure if it's going to be as broke as the regular version.
I think they're going to be fixing at least the roll and Karas infinites for sure. I don't know what other changes they may be making except taking out the Hakushin Damyo character and possibly adding in something like Speed Racer or something. But I think they're getting rid of some of the more blatant infinites and just broken stuff in that game. It's funny you mentioned King of Fighters 12 coming out in a month, because I just got a call from GameStop yesterday. Should point out to the listeners that today is the 23rd? 24th. And I just got a call yesterday that King of Fighters is supposed to be in today. So, I don't know.
It is.
I don't know what's up with GameStop.
Yeah, I heard that they were able to break street date for that.
Ooh.
And they'd be able to get away with it.
I should be enjoying King of Fighters 12 tonight then. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be playing that game. And I know some people here in Minnesota are going to be playing that as well.
Cool. I know that the SNK games have never had that big of a scene, but I think the fella's name is Dark Geese. He definitely keeps it going, and that's really impressive.
Yeah, and another thing about it is that if this game gets popular, because SNK games have never gotten popular because there really hasn't been a reason to play them, even though they've been good. Because first of all, if a game has to be popular, people have to be playing it. People have to be willing to put the time to be playing it.
Yep.
And that hasn't been the result with SNK games, unlike Marvel or CVS2 or Third Strike.
I wonder why that is. You have any idea?
Well, it all goes back to early 90s when Street Fighter 2 and Fatal Fury came out at about the same time. And, Street Fighter 2 dominated arcades, and Fatal Fury, it was pretty bad. So, and also with the way that the Neo Geo arcade cabinets work, is that you can have, I think, 4 cartridges in, so when you see the track screen, the games will keep rotating, and they might not have the time to, see the Fatal Fury game and instead see a puzzle game or whatever.
So that's like also, a little bit of history showing why SNK fighters may not have gained as much popularity.
Yeah. It's different for like places like Mexico or South America or China because Neo Geo is pretty cheap compared to regular Capcom or Tekken arcade cabinet.
Right.
So they were able to afford it. That's why one reason why you see, a huge player base in those areas.
Very cool. Did you want to go back and talk a little bit more about Midwest at EVO?
The 5-on-5, I think even though Midwest lost 5-1, I think they did pretty good. I mean, I'm sure they could have done better. Like, other than Perfect Sin's match, it seems like he didn't even care, which really is sad, and it's a slap in the face for people that actually wanted to be on that team and worked hard to be on that team.
Yeah.
I heard he was drunk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, we won't spread rumors, but it is kind of apparent that their performance, I guess, wasn't the best. I mean, they didn't win, obviously. But do you feel that overall, I mean, you said that they did okay. They represented.
Yeah.
So barring any kind of controversy over what actually happened, I mean, they went there and they did their job.
Yeah. And Perfect Sin isn't a bad player, actually, but he just played like shit, honestly. It felt like he wasn't, he didn't care, which, sucks.
Yeah, that does
And also, Humbag did really well against so much damage, and I think he could have taken a round, but he missed some things. But I remember him reading that it was, I think, nerves at the time. So
yeah, that's understandable, for real.
And also these things are one match. It's hard to decide, who's better with one. Each person has one match to play. I'm sure, like, if you compare, Midwest best players to the best players in the United States, like, people say that Midwest sucks, but if they play like 10 games, it's not like Midwest is going to win zero games. Midwest is going to get, at least 2 or 3 wins. So even though SoCal or NorCal might be better, Midwest doesn't suck. Midwest has some really good players.
There's potential there.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right, well, let's move on. So even with our potential in the Midwest, you say that we're already at a disadvantage, but I didn't see any specifics. So what do you mean?
Like, we're so spread out compared to the
Mm.
other teams.
Mm-hmm.
For Southern California, it's like 1 hour to get from San Diego to LA, and they've got a huge population density there.
Yep.
New York, it's like an hour to get from Philadelphia to New York City, or from Boston to New York City, and there's a huge population density there. But for Midwest, like to get from Chicago to Minneapolis, it takes 7 hours, which means that you have to actually plan, to get there, or you have to stay overnight in what the place that you're going to play in. To get from Detroit to, let's say, Milwaukee, it's probably about 7 hours. St. Louis to Chicago, 7 hours. Columbus to Indianapolis, probably about the same time. It's really hard. So a lot of these things you have to plan out, and also the population density for the Midwest isn't as high as other places like NorCal or SoCal or the Atlantic North. Like if you go to StreetFighter4Answers.com, I don't know if it's .com, but you can Google search Street Fighter 4 Answers. There's a map of Street Fighter 4 tournaments happening, and it's just amazing how dense the East Coast is. And East Coast has the most tournaments, and places like California, I think it's second. But if you look at the Midwest, it's a huge disparity. It's like there's 1 dot on Minnesota, 1 dot on St. Louis, maybe 2 dots on Chicago, 1 dot in Indianapolis, and other than that, there's really nothing. It sucks.
How do you think we can fix that? I've kind of had this idea if would be a way to get, at least like 1 or 2 tournament organizers in each state to start running some sort of local scene, or even like just a statewide major tournament, Would that be some way to get people hyped up in the individual states, and then have bigger tournaments like Midwest regionals, like Seasons Beatings, or maybe move it over a little bit more to the Midwest, and see if we could get like something going there? Because I know with the Super Smash Bros. Brawl community, they manage it pretty well, and the Midwest Brawl is supposed to be pretty high level, from what I've heard. And I'm not like repping Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I think it's an okay game, but the way they organize is definitely impressive. They have this Midwest circuit, and they have the East and West versions of it, and they have their they keep the money into this championship pot, and the way that they've organized their tournaments and gotten their players to come out and have split the Midwest into East and West to make the population or lack of population density less of an issue is something that I think other games, the Capcom, the SNK, the Namco game communities could definitely learn from.
Well, honestly, I don't think there's a surefire way that we can really help that we can do to bridge the gaps. I mean, you're always going to have that, distance factor. So you can have a lot of answers. I'm sure a lot of ideas can work. But the idea that you said is pretty good, actually, because like someone from North Dakota or something, if they want to go to Ohio, I think that's like a 14-hour drive.
Oh yeah,
so
that's like
that's out of the question.
Yeah, that's a whole weekend vacation or something.
Yeah. So it's going to be hard for places like that. So that East-West idea is pretty good. Also, I think just going to tournaments is another thing. Like I try to, I'm posting in like the Midwest threads about Minnesota Meltdown, just trying to get the word out to them.
Right.
Because it's all up to the player to get interested in coming to a tournament. Because if there's no interest, then they're not going to bother, going to the tournament.
Exactly. Why host a tournament if nobody's going to come?
Yeah, yeah.
So how do you think
I
you
mean,
can...
if they're going to host the tournament,
Mm-hmm.
it's just that, it's up to other states in the Midwest to come out there.
Right, right. And that's where the distance problem comes into play.
Yeah.
You're only going to get people from, like, the immediate couple of states that are right next to you.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
maybe some, like, diehard friends or people who just know the tournament scene really well that'll come from across a couple states.
Yeah. Also, it's all about whether people actually want to, how they want, like you said before, comparing states to each other. Like we had there was an IO tournament in April, and we had a 5-on-5 between Iowa, Minnesota, and St. Louis, and that was really hype. I'm sure if you ask anyone that was there, they said that they really enjoyed it.
Cool.
And I enjoyed it too, even though I wasn't on the team. So those things also work as well. I know trash talking works as well too. It always works.
Calling out the other state.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard from some players who say that, no matter how much the Midwest plays against each other, it'll still not be as good as having the ability to travel out to the coasts or maybe to somewhere even south like Final Round to those major tournaments and playing those players because they have already reached this echelon, this level of play that, it would take us, while it would be possible for us to kind of like mingle amongst ourselves in the Midwest and get that good, it would take a lot longer than just going out. And it's like if we go out and play against these people on the coasts and in places like Final Round and those kinds of majors, that we will get better quicker than if we just sat in the Midwest and even if we did travel around and overcame them.
I think he is right with the method that we're doing right now, which is just traveling to other Midwest states and stuff. It's not going to work. You're not going to get as good as the other coast by doing that. Getting better, like you don't need an arcade scene, in my opinion, to get better.
Right.
I mean, arcade scene really helps, and also if a game is going to come out much later compared to the console version, then an arcade scene is always going to help. But you don't need an arcade scene to be very to level up a lot. You just need a group of dedicated players, people that want to win, people that want to place first wherever they go, people that will put in the time and effort needed to get to the top placing to be able to win. That's like you saw in Evolution, one of the top 8 people used Barog in a Honda. He was from Puerto Rico. I don't think they have an arcade scene, but they have a group of dedicated players that want to win. They want to place in any tournament that they go to, and that's what needs to happen. You just need a group, and the more people you have in the group that want to get better, then the better it'll be because you'll be able to learn matchups, not only character matchups, but different play styles of the same character that each person uses, and that's something that the Midwest lacks. Like I'm just gonna say North Dakota, for example. I'm sorry because I honestly, we played against them a couple times, so I don't think. Hold on, I just gotta retract my statement.
What's the nicest way to say this?
Yeah. I'm just gonna assume that there's not a group of dedicated people, and when I say group, I'm gonna mean like 10 or 20 at the minimum.
Okay.
Group of dedicated players that want to get to the next level. Like competition is only as good. You're only as good as you want to be. So if you want to beat your brother, then you're gonna you can train to beat your brother. That's not gonna mean anything though in the grand schemes. So if you want to train to be, best in the world, then you need a group of dedicated people that you can play, that you can learn from, and where they can tell you your mistakes. Because, when you're playing a match, you can't exactly see what you're doing wrong, but someone from an outside view looking at your match can definitely tell what you're doing wrong. And that's another thing about how you can get better is basically recording yourself. So if you play online, I'm sure there's some recording features there. And if you're playing in a tournament or just casual matches, then you can ask someone to record your match, or you can bring a camcorder to record your match. Because being able to record yourself and then see what you're doing, it's like you missed you're not blocking enough, or you're eating overheads. You don't realize that when you're playing, but then you see your match and it's like, oh man, why can't I block that? Man, I'm eating so much of this stuff. And instantly, if you care enough, you're gonna try to fix those problems.
Yeah, I was real good about recording myself when I first started, and I've kind of been slacking, I'll go and play and I'll lose and I'm like, and I forget to set up the camera and I want to just keep playing.
I have to. It's something that I've been saying, but I haven't been doing myself, but I should do.
With that said, like right tonight when I go and play with some of my friends, I'm gonna bring my camera, set it up, and make sure that I at least have it on record for some of those matches. Because why not,
Yeah, and for people that are near you that really care about getting better, you should tell them that too, because even though they're really good, there's always things that you can work on, and recording your matches is always going to help, because you're going to get better. That's another thing with the Midwest, is that we progress more slowly with we progress more slowly than the other coasts. So being able to record your matches makes you get better faster, and if there's competition, which means that people are hungry to win, then it's going to force you to get faster.
Nice. Now, how do you, getting this group of 10 to 20 people, how would you go about that in a place like the Dakotas, where I've never seen one tournament posted on SRK for either of the Dakota states. So in these places where people may not be that interested, and you're like the single one or two people that are really interested in the scene, how would you get people to come to tournaments and get them excited about fighting games?
Well, one problem I see with how the Midwest posts its tournaments is that they just post it on SRK, or maybe they post it on another fighting game related website. What you want to do is you really have to get outside players. So basically, like what I'm doing with the Minnesota Meltdown, I'm posting up flyers, trying to post up flyers all over the city and the surrounding areas. I posted up a Facebook page. I posted up a Craigslist page.
Okay.
I even posted up a MySpace page, and I'm trying to actually get on the radio. Trying to radio advertise, although it's it kind of costs a lot.
Yeah.
So that might be out of the question.
Well, perhaps one day if you could get a sponsor, that would be an option.
Yeah. Also, I am trying to. We actually do have a sponsor.
Nice.
But I'm trying to get more, so that can help us out. So those things that you have to do, you have to reach outside, because you're only like if you're limiting yourself, then you're obviously going to see the results. You have to expand your territories. You have to, because new people, there's two things that can happen to new people when they enter the tournament. They can leave, or they can get better.
Right.
So the more new people you have, even if it's like 1,000 people enter a tournament and maybe 20 people want to get better, like they want to dedicate themselves to getting better to the next level, and that's still really good. You're still getting 20 more people.
Which is better than like just getting 10 people from your school to come when you put up flyers, and then 80% decide never to come back, and you've got a net of 2 people who are actually interested. But the more people you have, like you said, the more you're still going to have that same percentage of people who are kind of like, that was fun, I probably won't do that again. But then the more people you have, the more for that, like the 20% of people who actually stick around, that's like instead of 2 people, you get, like you said, 20. You get 40, however many.
Exactly. And also, it might be, a lot more work than they want it to be, but it also goes with the question: how dedicated are you to get better, or how dedicated are you to have a better scene? I'm sure you have the time to post up something on Facebook or Craigslist or whatever. And if you have a scene that can team up and pony up the money, you can probably put it on the radio.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something where arcades can come in handy, because if you have that kind of base of operations, that's just like a perk, I mean, it's completely possible to rent out a place on your own with a group of 10 kind of dedicated core players who pool together money or other kinds of resources and are able to kind of get this place where they can host some sort of local tournament and start advertising for it and trying to get more people interested in their scene. It's just arcades give like an automatic sort of interest level, I guess, is not exactly how I want to say it, but sort of something like that. It just gives you that automatic resource that you can use, and then all you have to worry about is getting people to come.
Yeah, and also arcades, arcades breed a better player in you, because if there's a certain amount of people playing, and we play games, right? So we want to play as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So we if you want to play as much as possible, then you're gonna have to get better. Also, we don't like losing money.
Right.
So if you don't want to lose money, then you're always gonna want to get better, and those other people will want to get better. And that's one reason why people that play in the arcades are so much better than other places.
Mm.
And honestly, I think arcades can survive in this market, but there's certain things that you have to do, but also that's something that's going to take a while to explain. So I'm not going to explain it here.
Well, perhaps on another podcast.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Continue on to the next talking point. Go ahead. Yeah, just pick one off your list, I guess.
Yeah. Another thing, like tournaments. When you go to tournaments, you're gonna have to deal with pressure.
Mm.
And pressure is something that is like, if you're a first timer, then it's gonna be hard to deal with, because it's a new experience. When something is new to you, you're not familiar with it, and you start to panic, or if you have nerves of steel, you don't.
Right.
So when you have nothing to fear really when you're in the tournament, other than not placing as high as you want, because people are there for the same reason you are, to compete, hang out with other people, or plays. So it's good experience, honestly, because you learn a lot of things. You learn hidden details about players that you wouldn't think of. There's a certain environment compared to online play that online play doesn't have. Like, just being right next to someone is going to, dramatically affect you if you're not experienced, against playing someone directly.
Now, when you say finding you said, I think, secrets about people. What do you mean?
Like, there are people have certain tendencies, like when you're viewing a match against someone, it could probably be your next opponent. They're gonna when the opponent does certain things to them, then they're gonna have certain reactions. Like, some people like to, when you whip an attack close to them, they like to fidget with a joystick, for example,
okay.
or
okay.
their reaction is to block low. And another thing that I don't see people using is that if you hit someone with a combo, but it doesn't knock them down, their first reaction is obvious. It's going to be to block low. So that's something where you can do an overhead, or you can throw. But I think the throw is better, because when you get hit with a big combo, it's like, oh, I have to block, and that's their first reaction. So when they get thrown, it's it takes them off course, because they weren't thinking about you getting thrown. because you can't combo throw in
Right.
most.
One of those first introductions, I guess, to mix-up game.
Yeah, and what you see in videos is it can't be replicated in tournaments. You have to actually be at the tournament because some people are gonna do things in videos where you're questioning why they did that, and sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not. And also there's pressure going on, so it's not. So videos can't always replicate what's in the tournament. And also about pressure is to standing up for a long time. These tournaments probably run from the afternoon to the evening or late night. Having to constantly walk back and forth to tournaments. It's gonna take a toll on your legs. So it's always good. It's always good to get us a good sleep. It's always good to be hydrated. Eat before you go to the tournament, so you're not hungry, your stomach's not growling, which has happened to me quite a few times.
Make sure that the tournament is next to a Subway.
Yeah, exactly. Tournaments are usually close to food, places where you can get food.
Yeah, just got to take advantage of it. Make the time to go and get yourself something to eat. Your stomach will thank you later.
Yeah, and also this is not for everyone, but is for me. It's really good because when you're in a tournament, you want to play as much as possible. Since it's a game, you want to play, right? So I think it's good to main more than one game, because if you go to a tournament, and you don't do well, you go 2-0, you play one game, then you're done.
Right.
And also tournaments, they're going on, so they're going to need as much resources as they can get. So that means you're basically not playing anymore. But when you main more than one game, it's like, oh, you don't do well in this tournament, in this game, then you can move on to the next game and do well in that game, so you have more time to play. And also, you learn things from different games that you can apply to one game to the next game.
This is something that I definitely agree with, definitely. And I've heard many other players say that there are certain things that just, certain techniques or certain mind games that cross over from game to game. So do you have any specific examples you can think of off the top of your head?
Well, playing a rushdown game, for example, is going to help you better in a game that's more methodical, like CVS2 or Samurai Showdown. And in a game like Super Turbo, where the controls are strict, is going to help you in games that are more lenient on the controls. So that's just one example.
Very cool.
And honestly, playing multiple games is really fun because, sometimes you'll get bored of playing one game.
Right, exactly.
And you wanna play another game, something that's not too different, probably. So it's not like going from fighting games to first-person shooters,
right?
But something that's different enough so that you're actually learning something new, but not playing, trying to play with diapers on.
Right, it's not the same as I'm going to play King of Fighters 11, and then I'll play 12, and then I'll go back and forth. No, you kind of want to expand a little bit more than that.
Yeah, and right now you've got a variety of choices. Like I said earlier, you have Blaze Blue, King of Fighters 12, Street Fighter 4, Tekken 6 is going to come out,
Yep.
PVC, the American version, and maybe even Melty Blood.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, I don't know about the Melty Blood situation because right now it's going to be released on Japanese PS2s only, and PS2 is honestly, dying.
Oh, yeah.
It's been out for like 10 years now, and
so there could be like a little niche scene, kind of like H&K, but it probably won't get released in mass and retail in the United States, which is too bad.
And Melty Blood was actually because I was at Final Round last year in 2008, and Multi-Blood was pretty popular. But, you know, with all these games coming out, people are going to be spending more time with those games compared to Multi-Blood.
Right.
And if it's like the Fate Unlimited Code situation, then it's not going to be popular. Or you get much play in tournaments other than being a niche scene.
Well, you know, that happens sometimes. Not every game can be popular, you know. There's going to be certain ones that eke out an advantage or a first place runnership with popularity in mind.
Yeah, I mean, people are always going to play obscure games, and that's something that's also fun as well. Playing something that, you know, you wouldn't expect to be played. Like, you know, there's still Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Tournament Fighters tournaments. That game is pretty good, actually. But it's, even though people don't really take it seriously, it's still fun to play on the side, especially after a hard tournament.
I haven't played that game in so long. I remember it, though. It was pretty fun. I think I still have it for the Super Nintendo.
As long as you have Street Fighter 2 basics, then you can go far in that game.
There you go.
It plays almost exactly like Street Fighter 2.
Just a little bit of sprite swapping, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's got 4 buttons, but it's Street Fighter 2 with turtles.
Nice. I know what's the Hadouken in that game?
You mean Leonardo's Shining Cutter?
Oh, is that it? Okay.
It's same motion.
Very nice.
Yep.
I'll have to go back and play that sometime soon. That's the second time I've heard somebody, I think on the podcast, mention that game.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. Probably just in passing as like some sort of thing they used to play, but it keeps ringing bells.
I'm sure people aren't going to go into much detail about that game.
Right. Well, I think, have we run out your list, or are there still a couple things that you'd like to talk about?
Well, some ways that, you know, maybe can help your game is to know the character, and basically meaning knowing their normals, specials, supers, their walk speed, which is forward speed and back speed, because the back speed is usually, you know, slower than the forward speed. Jump height or the jump speed, the hitbox of the characters, the matchups, get up speed, and also sticking to just 1 or 2, maybe 3 characters. Well, usually you want to keep it low, because if you play a lot of characters, it's going to be hard to know all of them.
Right.
Know how to play all of them efficiently, because there's going to be someone that trains hard for that specific game, and you're going to run into something that you can't really deal with, and you're going to lose.
Right.
So it's always good to stick with just a few characters. I mean, you're going to want to know all the characters, because that's how you learn matchups.
Right.
But you want to master 1 or 2, maybe 3 characters, because you want to have a main, you want to have a character that's just as good as that main character. If you run into something that's, you know, really hard, or you just like using more than 1 character.
What about you personally? What is your philosophy on that? What do you play Street Fighter 4?
Yeah, I do.
So do you have just one main, or do you have your main and secondary? How do you run in that game?
Yeah, I use Sagat and Seth. It depends on how I'm feeling. Usually I use Sagat for most, because he's got, you know, good matchups against everyone.
Right.
But I also use Seth as well. Like if I you know, run into something that's kind of hard, you know, and I want to throw them off a lot, then I'm gonna use Seth, because a lot of people don't know how to deal with Seth.
Yeah.
Because they don't play that many Seth players.
Which is strange, really. You'd think more people would play Seth.
I think it's the factor that he's a cheap character, and people don't like playing with someone with that style. Like Sagat, for example, in Super Turbo, there's only like 2 or 3 people that, you know, that widely play him, even though he's top tier, because they probably don't want to play him because he's considered a cheap character, which I don't agree with.
Right.
If in your tournament, you're gonna play with anything as you're gonna play with all the tools that you can. Characters are basically tools, and you want to handle them as such.
Yeah, that's where kind of a lot of personal preference comes into play. Because if they
Yeah.
are tools, well, you may not like the, I don't know, 50 cal sniper rifle that is old Sagat. You may prefer the, I don't know, the 6-shooter that would be Blanca or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that's where
Exactly.
game balance comes into play, where you hope that the designers have made the 6-shooter capable of defeating the 50 cal sniper rifle. But
Yeah.
it doesn't always end up that way, I
Yeah. Exactly.
guess. Yeah, I personally go with the what I've been told is the Japanese mindset that you stick with one character, you master that character, and you learn all the matchups. Even if you get surprised, like you say, and you want to kind of throw them off their game and throw them off the patterns that they've been learning from your Sagat, for example, and switch to Seth. I
Yeah.
guess the Japanese mindset is, well, just play your same main character differently. Just do something different. Utilize a different move or different tactic that you weren't in the previous set, and then just gung ho with one character.
And it works for the Japanese too because their style of play is basically one game single elimination, so they have
Right,
to stick with the character.
right.
But it actually works though. It actually works sticking with the character. But if you have a character that's not quite top tier, that's that has a lot of bad matchups,
Mm-hmm.
matchups like they're 3 to 7, because if you have a 4 to 6 matchup with everyone, then I think you can still use that character alone.
Hmm.
But if you have a matchup that's like 3-7 or 2-8, then you're gonna have to think about you using another character, maybe not as a counter, but as a second main. So you can still have a character that's low tier, with bad matchups, but
Mm-hmm.
you want to pick a character that can also do well.
Yeah.
But if you're playing top tier, then I don't think you really need a second main. Although it still helps a lot,
Yeah,
helps
I
in
could, I
learning
could definitely
matchups.
see how that would work. I guess it's fortunate that most of the newer games are pretty balanced right out of the gate. There aren't many characters that are, you know, not Super Turbo Akuma level.
Well, balance is really tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that you see, like if you release a game and it's something that where you see the results much after the game's been out, because programmers don't know for sure who's going to be the best.
Right.
Although sometimes they'll make one character better than another purposely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where the play testing comes down, but they won't always catch everything.
Yeah, and also it's important, really important, to learn matchups,
Mm-hmm.
because in tournaments, even if you think you're good, you're going to run into something that you've never seen before, and it's very important that you're able to get to learn to how to fight against that. Because if you fight something that you've never seen before, you're probably gonna get beat,
Yep.
or it's gonna be very close.
It's
And
all about
another advantage,
knowledge.
yeah, and another advantage, as I said before, is that other scenes they've seen it before, so they can react to it accordingly.
Mm. Just because they have that bigger player base,
Yeah,
more variety,
yeah,
more
and
variety of
I
higher
think they're
level
more
players.
I think they're more tight knit as well.
Mm. Which comes with the population density.
Yeah, but that's something we can work with.
Mm.
I mean, that's something we can work around.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to, have conversations more on the forums. We have to, play against each other more. We have to talk about, what we're doing wrong and how we can make ourselves better. We have to go into tournaments now with the mindset of, oh, I'm going to destroy everyone and then leave. Although if you're playing against another state, then that could be something that you could do. But you want to go to tournament being able to learn, being able to basically learn about the game you're playing and learn about the people you're playing.
Mm.
Because the characters, once you figure out how to play the characters and the game, it all comes down to the player versus the player. How one player plays and another plays, it's going to be different.
Right.
And you're going to be able to detect that probably by the end of the first round.
Interesting. Well, we're kind of running up on that time when I need to skedaddle. It's
Okay.
It's about 7 minutes from an hour, so we've done pretty good job anyways of covering all the things that you want. I feel like there's still some definitely some unanswered questions and unsaid topics that are probably welling up inside you, and I think that
there's quite a bit, and stuff I'd like to go into more detail about, but
cool.
I'm gonna have to shorten it a little bit.
Well, we can always do another podcast, and I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, then. Well, what was your name again? You said it at the beginning, but it was very quick. I didn't catch it.
It was Tahir.
Can you spell that?
Tahir.
Tahir.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tahir, for coming on and speaking with me, and I hope that in our next podcast we'll get to know you more as a player and your involvement with the community, because you've definitely given a lot of good food for thought, I think, in this podcast.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
And also, one more important thing is trial and error. Trial and error helps so much. If you do something repeatedly, then you're going to be able to learn it without thinking about it.
Right.
And if you do something and mess it up, and you stick to trial and error, you're going to eventually get it. Even though it'll take a month, but you're going to get it down. It just determines on how dedicated you are into getting it and sticking with trial and error. So don't just copy people. Do something so that you know that it works and know how to utilize it.
Good advice. Well, thanks again for coming on, and I really look forward to talking to you again in the very near future.